3 times. Close your eyes and we'll chant Omkar. Breathe in. Okay. Now today we are moving away from Vishnu to Shiva. Just so you get a brief idea of every aspect of the Shastra. So we have a story of Brahma and Vishnu asking Shiva, this is from the Shiva Purana, they say, please tell us the characteristic feature of the 5 duties that you do beginning with creation. So Shiva says, I'll tell you the secret of these 5 duties out of compassion for you. He says it's a permanent cycle, and these 5 duties consist of creation of the universes, maintenance, annihilation or dissolving it, then concealing and blessing. That is, Sarga is the creation of the universe. That is called Sarga. Sthiti is maintaining. That is, after you create, you have to maintain. Samhara is dissolving it or annihilation. Tirobhava is keeping it concealed. In other words, when we are living in everyday life, there is a veil over our eyes that we discussed earlier called Mahamaya. That Maya prevents us from seeing the reality, the truth, and only seeing what we want to see out of our own conditioning of the mind. This is called Tirobhava. And the blessing is liberation. That is Anugraha. Anugraha is liberation from the cycle of birth and death. That comes through grace. So he says, these 5 are my activities. But just to let you know, these activities are exactly the same that his Shakti does also. So there is creation, Sarga, Sthiti, maintenance, Samhara, dissolving, Tirobhava, which is the veiling of it, so you don't see it, Maya, and salvation or liberation from, once you know the truth, then you don't have to come back again and again to find it. So this is liberation or Anugraha. Then he says, these activities happen with the Panchamaha Bhutas also. For example, creation is in the earth. What are the Panchamahabhutas? We discussed it the other day. You have the earth, water, fire, air, akasha, space. These are the Panchamahabhutas. And these are the elements that are responsible for keeping the physical body alive. So these activities, he says, are also observed in the 5 elements by the devotees. Everybody doesn't see. What is it that they observe? The creation happens in the earth. How does it happen? Because creation happens because a man and woman come together, conception happens. So what happens? The man's semen goes into the woman's uterus and conception happens. Now, how does the man get the semen? By eating, by being healthy. What does he eat? He starts with eating the herbs from the earth. How do the herbs grow? because the seeds are planted and the herbs are growing. So, in that sense, they say the earth or the bhumi is responsible for all creation because all beings eat what is on the earth to be born as seeds. Even trees have their seeds, they fall in the earth. Animals eat things in the earth. If you eat an animal, that animal has eaten some herb. So, creation is the duty of the earth, bhumi. Maintenance is in the waters. Why do they say maintenance is in the waters? Even physically, about a 75-80% of our bodies are full of water. And it was even in the early days, everything started with the water. The water. The first you had animals living in the water, then they came out and they could manage the water and the surface and the earth. And the water is a very important part of every cell. If you don't have enough water in your body, you can die of thirst. So, what keeps you um, maintaining your health is the waters. Samhara, annihilation, is in the fire. It is the fire that destroys everything. Later. Tirobhava, concealment, is in the wind. Why in the wind? Because you are breathing the air. You don't see the air. It is concealed from you. Earth you can see, fire you can see, water you can see, but you can't see the air. But you know it is present because you're breathing it. This is called Tirobhava. And all these four put you in a conflict as to what is seen, what is unseen. And with all this, we keep we are not able to see what is the reality. We look at everything based on our own earlier conditions and conditioning, and that becomes like a illusion. In fact, I sent you some 20 illusions that you can look at pictures by WhatsApp. Have a look at it and see how difficult it is sometimes to see the reality, even at ordinary physical level. Then imagine how it must be to see it at a much higher level. And then you have the space afterwards. And the space is the anugraha, because it is once you get to know that the space that is outside and the space that is within you are the same, it is easy to understand how everything is connected to everything else, and we are all one single fabric. We are not separate from each other. So Shiva tells them all these five are his activities, and for this he has 5 faces, 4 in 4 sides and the 5th in the middle. And he tells Brahma and Vishnu, because of your austerities, you have done penance, you have got the first 2 activities, creation and maintenance. Brahma has creation and Vishnu has maintenance. And you also have anugraham because I have been satisfied with you. And who are the other 2 who do the annihilation and concealment? Rudra and Mahesha. Now, I don't know if you have seen pictures of Rajarajeshwari, which we will take Shakti at another time. Rajarajeshwari is the queen or the Maha Parabrahma Swarupi. She sits on a cot which has 4 legs and a mattress. These 4 legs are supposed to be creation, maintenance, dissolving, and concealing. And the mattress on which she sits is Sadashiva or the Anugraha Shakti. So he tells them, both of you should start reciting Omkara so that you understand who I am. I have taught this sacred mantra Om because it came out of my mouth, Shiva says. Originally, it indicated me. It is the indicator, I am the indicated. The mantra is identical with me. That is, this Om is the mantra of Shiva and Om is Shiva. That's what he's saying. Then he says that the two sets of created beings, that is Nama, the name, and Rupa, the form, are pervaded by this mantra. Why? Because something is formless, it is nameless, and this mantra is not there at that time. When the formless becomes a form, that is when Paramatma becomes his manifestation, he gets a name, an identity that is called Ahamkar. Aham means I, Nama, and he gets a form also. And these forms have come because of Omkar. So it indicates Shiva and Shakti, he says. That is a consciousness and its energy. Out of this, he says, is also born the 5-syllable mantra Namah Shivaya. And the entire set of Vedic mantras, the crores of mantras, all the vibrations in the universe, which join together and become different forms, they are all achieved through Om itself, because Om is the first vibration, the primal vibration from which everything is created. So he says, by this mantra, every enjoyment you get as well as salvation. Then he goes on to say that Omkara can be repeated while you are meditating on Shiva, because it's mystical sound. You go on repeating it, and then you find that you vibrate with that sound, and that is the original sound in which all of creation vibrates. Now he then tells them of different pujas you can do. There are Shodasa, that is 16 types of puja. We won't go into any of that. But he says, if you just repeat the Omkar 1,000 times in the morning and 1,000 times at Sandhya time, and if it is done mentally, it will give you a lot of benefits out of that. I'm not going into the benefits here because I'm going to tell you a story about something else. So, in another portion of the Shiva Purana, there is a set of stories which brings the message that when you have a desire that brings possessiveness, then it destroys the sadhana also. So you can have a desire, you get the desire, and you let it go. You enjoy and you let it go. Don't be possessive, which means don't crave, don't get addicted to whatever you get. When you get addicted, it destroys your sadhana. So about that, they give you a story, and I'm going to tell you that story. When Brahma started creating, he created 9 types of creation. And of these, one of these types of creation was the rishis like Marichi, Atri, Pulaha, Pulastya, Angirasa, Kratu, Vasishta, Narada, Daksha, and Bhrigu. When he created this, out of his mind came, remember, he had no thoughts. He was completely in meditation. So out of meditation, all these came. So they are called as mind-born sons. And at the same time, Sandhya came. She was very beautiful. And because he was in dhyana, seeing her, she was stunningly beautiful. Brahma involuntarily got up because he was in shock. He didn't expect such a beautiful woman to come out. He and all the others had the first stirrings of thoughts. That is the first time thoughts happened with Brahma and everybody else. And from Brahma's thought, there was a beautiful creation that happened. Everybody was surprised. It's a very handsome man, tall, with a very loving glance. His breath was like a fragrant wind. and he was accompanied by a sentiment of love. So, seeing him, others' minds were wonderstruck, then curious, and then there was confusion and mental deformation, and they lost moral courage. Now, even Brahma became his victim. He called him Manmata because as soon as he was born, he began to torment and confuse the mind of all the people who had been comfortable till then. Kama, because he was the capacity to assume any form. There was no equal to desire. You know, your desire can be a person, your desire can be food, your desire can be a game, your desire can be hurting somebody. So it can assume any form, a desire. Madana, because it causes elation, happiness. Darpaka, because he is haughty. Because desire is always haughty. It demands that you pay attention. He was more powerful than all the devas put together. And when you get such a psychic power, the desire can destroy your sadhana, he says. Because what happens, he has omnipresence. He is present everywhere. There is no place where desire doesn't exist. He had 5 arrows. They were called Harshana, which was the white lotus, which delighted people. Rochana, appealing quality, which comes from the Ashoka flower. Mohana, deluding quality from the mango flower. Soshana, it makes you wither. That is the Navamallika jasmine. And Marana makes you kill for your desire. That is the blue lotus. So such were his 5 arrows, and his bow was made of sugarcane. It was very sweet. Desire is very sweet. So even sages can be deluded with this. So Brahma then gives Kama, that is Madana, Manmata, the task of creation. So Kama thought to himself, let me start now. And all the sages and Brahma can witness what terrific things I can do. And Sandhya will be my mouthpiece. Sandhya, remember, born out of Brahma's mind. Under the influence of Kama, the sages and even Brahma felt changes in their mental feelings. Till now, they were equanimous, quiet, not bothered about anything, living in peace and happiness. They all started looking at Sandhya, and their passions were awakened, and they had a lot of lust. Now, Kama did not stop because he was very proud of his strength to make everybody lose control. So the vital elements in Brahma became disturbed. What are the vital elements? The Pancha Mahabhutas. Out of this, 49 animal instincts were born. And Sandhya herself, she also became an object of desire. And when an object of desire is looked at again and again, it seems more and more enchanting. So she also was influenced, and she started having flirtatious behavior in response to people looking at her. Now, what happened? One of Brahma's sons was called Dharma. Dharma remembered Shiva and he said, Lord, save me. You can hear, no? Hello?
Yes, Swami.
You can hear. Okay. So Dharma, one of Brahma's sons, says, please help me, Shiva, because my father and brothers are going to damage me because their minds are all very confused. So Shiva comes there and laughs. And he asks Brahma, how did you have lust for your own daughter? That is Sandhya. Now the thing to remember, who are Brahma's children? Your siddhis are your children. That is what they mean. Not that he really had kids. Your siddhis are your children. And don't be possessive towards them. In other words, when you have a siddhi, a power, it is to be used for the good of all creation. It is not just for you to hang on to it and hoard it like a miser. For example, you have jnana. It is your obligation to distribute it, because jnana doesn't belong to you. Nothing belongs to you. Be generous with what belongs, what you think belongs to you, such as a siddhi. So Brahma then felt ashamed and he sweated. He controlled his desires, and out of his sweat were born the Pitras. That is the, you don't know, the Pitrikal, that is your ancestors who have gone earlier on itself, broken through the um, door of the barrier of death, and who have reached immortality. These were ascetics with great merit long, long, long ago. They were higher than ordinary people. They were great mystics. And then Daksha, who was another of his sons, sweated. And when he sweated, a very beautiful girl came out of that sweat. Daksha was one of Brahma's sons. And this girl was so beautiful. She was called Rati, or she was called pleasure. And she was capable of captivating even the sages. So, of all the sages, they were able to curb their senses except 4 people. That is Kratu, Vasishta, Pulastya, and Angirasa. And these people, their seminal fluid in their excitement fell to the ground. And these became 4 types of Pitras. Now, looking at Sandhya, looked at Shiva and she got purified. In other words, she's looking at the Omkar, she's looking at the whole cosmos, and she becomes a mother. She doesn't look at another person as if they are objects of pleasure. And Shiva disappears. Now Brahma gets very angry. He turns with blazing eyes to Kamadeva and he says, when you play the same trick on Shiva, you will be consumed by fire of Shiva's eye and freed of your arrogance. He says, he's so angry because he is losing face there, you see. So that is why we put the ash of Shivagni on our forehead. That is the vibhuti that we put, which is to remember that when you put the vibhuti, your arrogance should go down. You're only touching the ash and putting it. So Kamadeva, suddenly he got scared because he thought, even now, what will Brahma do to me? He said, I was just testing what you said. And then Brahma feels sorry to him. Sorry, he says, when Shiva takes a wife, you will get another body. So Kama looked at Rati, that is, desire looks at pleasure. And he was lost, abandoned the arrows, abandoned the faith, everything else. Even desire gets swallowed up with pleasure. She carried a lotus and a chakra. What is the chakra? Kala. Pleasure is time bound. Then she illumined the whole world. She was like Lakshmi. She knew 64 arts to please people. Kamadeva forgot Brahma's curse. He even forgot to mention it to Daksha. Meanwhile, what happened to Sandhya? When all this happened, Sandhya's mind was shaken. She saw Brahma, she saw her father, that is Brahma, the rishis. She heard the curses and saw the whole damage, and she was put off marriage. She didn't want to get married. Shiva also had disappeared. Her support goes. So she was furious and she meditated. Great tapas she did. And she thought, this body of mine was responsible for all this damage. It is of no use. I'm going to set it on fire as Prayaschita. So she went to the mountain Chandrabhaga. So Brahma tells Vasishta, See, your lustful actions were her first death, because Vasishtha also looked at her with lust. She does not know the procedure of tapas. You go and initiate her after changing your form. So Vasishtha, who was a brahmachari, was blazing like fire, and he is one of the people who take a sadhaka who is in samadhi from one level of consciousness to another. That consciousness is like that. He remembers Shiva, the highest power, meditates on Shiva, and then he was given Diksha by Shiva. So the Guru is always Parashiva. So when you want to pray to the Guru, you can always use this mantra, Om Namah Shankaraya Om. So the whole tapas begins with silence of the mind. It's a cosmic dimension, not your mind alone. Eventually, everything around you will become still. It's the penance of silence. That is, when you go into asamprajnata samadhi, you go beyond verbal, you go beyond thought, no images, there, no mind. Sometimes people say it is the dark night of the soul. It is like shunya. So she performed this practice for 4 yugas. It's called Mahatapas or Brahma Tapas when you do it for such a long time. So Shiva appears there, gives her divine wisdom, divine eyes, divine speech, and she worships the pure energy, formless Shiva, that formless consciousness, and the utmost essence of everything. And she got the capacity to sanctify all objects. Now, when she got the that energy, she was asked to choose certain boons, and she said, "No living being born here should have lust at birth. No female shall be as famous in 3 worlds as me." Now, this is not actually her wish; it is the fruit of her tapasya. No creation of mine shall become lustful. That is, somebody who invokes her will not have lust. He would look at every woman as a mother. My husband should be of a pure mind and an intimate friend. A person who looks with lust at me becomes a eunuch. So he says, the act of your body has given you, you did this when you were 12 years old. Shiva tells Sandhya, she's 12 years old. He says, there is a rishi called Medha Titi. When you cast your body, you will be born as Medha Titi's daughter. But before you cast out your body, choose a suitable bridegroom. So what she does is, Shiva disappears, Sandhya goes to Medha Titi's yajna, and before she casts off her body, she remembers the Brahmin boy who gave her Diksha, because he was the guru for her. Remember, when you're casting off the the physical body, you're getting control of the Pancha Mahabhutas. That is what Namah Shivaya means. So you are giving up the Pancha Mahabhutas, you're detaching your body from it, and the body dies. So she has a spiritual body now. So what does she do? She enters that blazing fire of Medha Titi's yajna unobserved by sages. The body becomes the sacrificial offering, and on Shiva's bidding, Shiva tells Agni to send her purified body to the spiritual world, that is the Atma. When she goes to the spiritual world, the sun, Surya, Savitra, cuts it into 2 pieces. The upper half is called Pratha Sandhya, the dawn, the Deva time. And the lower half is called Sayam Sandhya, the dusk, Pitrkal's time. Now, Shiva created embodied beings with her prana, manas, and divine body. That became the Karana Sharira, in which all the vasanas are kept. At the end of the sacrifice, Medhatiti found a daughter in the Homakundam, just like Janaka found Sita in the earth. He found her in the fire. He lifted her up very happily and he called her Arundhati. Arundhati means one who does not hinder the sacred rites in any manner. So, when she was 5 years old, Medhatiti's daughter Arundhati, he married her to Vasishta. When on that occasion of her marriage, the water from the hands of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, it oozed from the hands and it became this, in Ujjain there is a sacred river called Kshipra. This Kshipra came out of the hands of these creation, maintenance and dissolving energies. And if you realize when you get married, your own wedding rituals, the priest will ask the groom and the bride to look up and see Arundhati. He says, can you see Arundhati? They'll tell you. Because Arundhati was such a stable wife. Now what happened to Brahma? He was upset with Shiva for mocking him. Because he had a desire for his own daughter. So he was annoyed with Shiva because in front of everybody he lost face. So he asked Kama and Rati, that is desire and pleasure, to go and delude Shiva. So Kama says, for him to get attracted, I need a woman. Who will I get? So while he was worried, this Brahma sighs, makes a big sigh. And from the sigh, the spring came up, Vasantam. Why is the spring called so? Vasati, to pervade or to make an abode. It becomes the final cause for a permanent abode. You like springtime, no? Anybody likes to settle down in spring. The flowers are in bloom. The sun is not hot like summertime. Even Saraswati, the highest wisdom, comes and is born during the Vasanta Ritu. That is on Vasant Panchami. So he gave this Vasanta to Kamadeva and he says, take the Vasanta also Ritu. So Kamadeva went to Shiva and he tried all his tricks. He could not shake Shiva. He retreats and reports to Brahma. Why he could not shake him? Because Shiva cannot be shaken by Kama or Rati. He doesn't have desire. He doesn't have pleasure. That is why he is able to become the dissolver. It is the desire of the divine consciousness that makes creation happen. It is the desire that keeps it going, maintaining. But when you become desireless, the annihilation happens. Then he reports to Brahma again. He says, I'm not able to do anything. And this time, Brahma sighs the second time. And out of the deep sighs, certain violent forms appeared. These were terribly, they were terrible and they were shouting, Maraya, Maraya, kill, cut. They were the Maras. That is, they were the temptation, whom in Christianity they called the devil. And in Islam, they call it Shaitan. In Buddhism, they call it Mara, who tried to tempt the Buddha. And Kumara or Kumari means the one who removes the Mara. Now you see, Corona, what do they call it? Mahamari. That is why they call it. It is something that damages. It will hinder all the wise on the path of knowledge. So Brahma sees all this and he says, please go back to Kamadeva, and he says, delude Shiva. Then Kama respectfully told Brahma, see, the only way to make Shiva take a wife is to do it decently. All these methods won't work with Shiva. So Kamadeva mentally did namaskaram to Shiva and he went home. Now Brahma's arrogance goes, but his desire remains because creation has to happen, no? So he prayed to Vishnu, who is identical to Shiva, and devotees like Vishnu also. So he explains the whole thing to Vishnu, and Vishnu scolds Brahma for thinking that Rudra is his son. You know, Rudra came out of Brahma's middle eye. So he always used to say, Rudra is my son. So Vishnu explains Shiva's transcendent highest nature to Brahma. And he said, if you ever thought that Shiva must take a wife who is strong, you must meditate on Shiva himself. Why do you go meditating on Kama and Rati and everybody? You meditate on Shiva and on Shiva. Shiva with lengthening of Shiva is Shakti. In fact, Shiva and Shakti have equally these 5 acts that they do: creation, maintenance, dissolving, tirobhava, veiling, and anugraha. Both of them are same. They also have the same name, Shiva and Shiva. They have the same instruments, the same weapons together as Kameshwara and Kameshwari. Both have the bow of sugarcane and the 5 flower arrows. Both have the crescent moon. So he says that they are so united, Shiva and Shiva, that is consciousness and its energy. And if she takes birth, that is, if energy incarnates, Shiva's energy incarnates, then she will become Prakriti and he will marry her. So Vishnu asks Brahma to tell Daksha to do that penance. Vishnu also reminds Brahma how they are both Shiva's manifestations for the purpose of creation and sustaining, and how the Shiva who had no attributes came as Rudra with attributes. So he says this Rudra, Shiva with form, will marry Sati, that is Shiva with form, because both the Shiva and Shakti do not have form, they are formless. So Brahma then meditated on Durga. Why Durga? Because Durga has 2 forms. One is she is the Vidya, that is the Sadashiva, that is the Anugraha aspect, and she is also Avidya, the world of illusion as Yogamaya or Mahamaya. She is both. And she is the pure supreme Brahman in that sense. She is formless, but she is everywhere and she is eternal. So Shiva, that is, who later is born as Shakti, is Shiva's energy. And because he meditated on Durga, Durga is Shiva's energy. She appeared on a lion with 3 eyes, 4-armed, and infinite. Brahma says, without a wife, how can auspicious creation come up at all? So he tells Vishnu, just like Lakshmi who delights Vishnu, so too for the Loka Sukham, for the goodness of the world, he tells Durga, please incarnate. Shiva, that is Durga, thinks Shiva, who is Parabrahman, has become Rudra. He has manifested for lifting up the devotees. So she agrees, she meditates on Shiva, that is Shiva, the consciousness, because it was his Icha, Shiva's Icha, the desire. That's why she's called Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Maheshwari, Mahalakshmi is Icha Shakti, Mahasaraswati is Jnana Shakti and Parameshwari is Kriya Shakti. All three together joined, that energy is called Durga. Now Daksha does a lot of tapas, 3000 Deva years, with the mother of the universe in his heart. That is on this Durga. And Durga appears as time. So see this, she appears as time, Kali. She agrees to be his daughter. And it's a great teamwork there. Rudra is Sadashiva. And he says to this Shakti that you will have your desire as Icha Shakti, but the moment you are disrespectful to me, I leave the body and go back to my original essence. What do they mean by disrespectable? Disrespectable means your Shakti must be completely in tune with your consciousness. That is, what is your consciousness? What you do, your actions must be completely in tune with your consciousness. You see, for example, you want to be healthy, but you will starve yourself. That is what you do. Or you will overeat. That is what you do. That means what you do and what you are aspiring for are not in harmony. So she has to be your energy has to be completely in tune with your consciousness for every person. So he tells her, I have taken a form, and because you are the Icha Shakti and the universe has to be born out of you, you are the Jagat Janani, you will be born, you will carry my energy and create all this, and the world will be auspicious. If anything happens in the world of Prakriti, which is not in tune with my consciousness, I will leave and I will go back to my source. So the Shivatvam will not be in the world. The auspiciousness, Shiva means auspiciousness. So auspiciousness will leave the world of manifestation. You can have illnesses, you can have floods, you can have diseases, anything can happen. So now Durga, with Brahma's advice, is born to Daksha. She went to the holy lake that is called Narayana and performed great tapas. And she had children. These children were aspects of Narayana, Vishnu. Narada told them not to procreate. So they went away and they never returned. Now Daksha had 1,000 sons and they were Siddhas. And as they were going to sit and procreate, Narada again comes and tells them, see, this world is full of illusion. Why are you wanting to waste your time procreating? Meditate on Shiva. So they too left and went away. Now Daksha is very annoyed because he is trying to create so that the whole universe will be born. So he curses Narada and he says, you will always roam around. Your feet will never be in one place. Who is Narada? Narada is the origin of Nada. He has broken through Nada, and Nada is the first aspect of the creation. When you say Omkar, when you say the A, U, Ma, and you go on, that is the Nada. And you're going to the Bindu. Bindu is the point of creation, point of dissolving. The dot on top of Omkar. Nada is that half moon, which you do. Now, what he's saying is that Narada is a being who has broken through the Nada, gone to the source itself. So that means when he becomes creation, that Nada will be everywhere. Creation becomes because of the entire Bindu. Out of Bindu, creation happens, and Nada will be everywhere. So Narada, who broke through it, will never be in one place. That's what they mean. That's why Narada is the Guru also, because the Guru always is Shiva, Sadashiva. Now, this the mother of the universe was born to Daksha, and she was called Uma. Why Uma? Uma. Om. Om is the creation. That is Prakriti. And Uma is the opposite. When you say Om or Uma, you go backwards, it is Uma, and she is the one who leads you back to the source. That is Prakriti, the world, the universe leads you back to your source. That is why in the world we do Karma Yoga. We try to get rid of Chitta Shuddhi. We try to get Chitta Shuddhi, and we are given all the situations in life which help you to learn what is Kriya Yoga. Then she was born, and her name was called Uma. Now, Daksha prays to her because he knows she is the mother of the universe. So he prays to her, and he calls her the great mother of the universe, Jagat Janani, because she is not only the Jagat Janani, she is the one who directs Rudra to create Pralaya at the proper time. She directs Brahma to create. She directs Vishnu to sustain. Because remember, she is equally capable of the 5 Panchakarya that Shiva is doing. So he tells her, you are Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. As Vidya, you give salvation. As Avidya, illusion, you give worldly pleasures. Whoever calls you as Bhavani, Ambika, Jagan Maya, and Durga. Remember these names? If you call her Bhavani, Ambika, Jagan Maya, and Durga, whoever calls you by those names will have all his desires fulfilled. So on a visit once, Brahma says to Uma, you have as a husband, you will have, he says when he goes to meet Daksha, who has not taken anything, because Shiva doesn't take from anybody. He does not take, and he will not take any other wife. That is, Shiva Shakti is very sthiram. The same as Uma, she comes back as Sati, then she comes back as Parvati. And Durga, knowing she is Devi, feels blessed by this, what Brahma says. So one day what she does, is it time? Almost time. She has to take a form that it can become creation and have in itself the every bit of what creation is. So the formless Shiva takes a form, and Shiva, his Shakti also has taken a form now. So all the gods come to see her, because now she is doing a great process, that is the tapas of Shakti. She is the ultimate success of all sadhana. So all the gods come to Shiva and tell them, this is your Shakti, it has become manifestation, you should marry her. So he agrees. And he says, I can marry her if she is both transcendent and immanent. Transcendent means beyond creation and dissolving and everything, and also in creation. So when I'm in my transcendent para self, she should not disturb me. when I want to play games in the manifest world, she must be a perfect lover. That is, he's talking of total harmony as para and as prakriti. If she ever doubts me, I will abandon her. So Shiva Apri, she says, he offers to marry her. She says, please take permission from my father. Agrees. And everybody arranges the marriage. If you have 5 minutes, I can tell you a bit about the marriage, what happens. If you don't have that time, we can do it next time. What do you say?
Swamiji, please continue.
Okay. So, Vishnu, she marries Shiva. Brahma conducts the wedding. And Vishnu says to him, please protect the good people and the devatas. Kill any man who sees or hears the Shakti with lustful mind. So Shiva says, okay. And then he says, anyone who wishes evil to another, the evil comes back to them. Now, Brahma had, remember, wished to delude Shiva, but he was caught in the meshes of Shiva Maya. That is the Maya of Shiva, because he couldn't delude Shiva. Shiva was very pakka. He could not be deluded by either Manmata or Rati. That is desire or pleasure. He was above all that. But Brahma was very annoyed at that time. So he sends Manmata back again. And that somewhere he repressed it and kept it. So what he does is, while officiating as the priest, he was caught in the meshes of Shiva Maya. That is Maya meaning the avidya aspect. So he sees through Maya, through the veil, Tirobhava. So while officiating as the priest at the wedding, her feet were seen by him. Immediately he becomes lovesick with manifestation. That's what happens. So he wanted to see her face. But because she was modest and shy, the lajja, she became shy. That's called lajja, no? So the lajja bijam is called hreemkara. Her bija is called hreem. She is Maya bija. So when you say Om, Hreem, Om, the Om is protecting the Hreem or the Maya bija. That is the bija mantra of Bhuvaneshwari, who creates the world. How does she create the world? What do they mean by becoming shy? That is, she is the infinite one, and she has condensed herself to become the world. She is much beyond all that. So when you are shy, you always shrink, no? You want to hide from yourself. So they are using that word and calling her the Lajja Bijam, which is the Bhuvaneshwari mantra. So she makes herself, constricts herself to be limited as the world of matter. But Brahma becomes so lovesick that he devised a way to see her face. How does he do that? He puts wet things in the fire. When you have a wet thing in the fire, there is a lot of smoke. When there is a lot of smoke, they say the yajna is not good. What do they mean when you put wet things in the fire? It means the mind is not seasoned. Like the wood is not seasoned, your mind is not seasoned. And Shiva covers his eyes. When Shiva covers his eyes, Brahma lifts her veil and looks at her face. Because he could not stop it. He was so captivated by his own lovesickness. As he kept looking at her, 4 drops of seminal fluid fell on the ground. Brahma was stunned. He covered it up. But Shiva saw by his Jnana Chakshu. So he remembered his promise to Vishnu that if anybody looks at Shakti with lust, he has to kill them. So he lifted his trident, what is it called? Trishul. He lifted the Trishul to kill Brahma. The rishis were scared because creation will stop. So they started crying. Then Vishnu, who is a skilled manager, sort of, he bowed to Shiva and he reminded him, your name is Ashutosh. Ashutosh means Bhaktavatsala, easily pleased. And he tells him, I am your devotee. So is Brahma. Brahma fixed the wedding, he said. So you should not hurt him. So he says, why shouldn't I hurt him? I gave you a promise that if anybody looks at Devi, she's a mother, no? Jagat Janani. You can't look at your mother with lust. So Vishnu says, you are the manifest and the unmanifest, form and formless. We three, that is Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, we are the same. You are the beginning, endless and eternal. You are the silent being, Sadashiva, as well as the dynamic Shakti who becomes the universe. How can you annihilate yourself? Because if you kill Brahma, you're killing your own capacity for creation. So Shiva is very happy with Vishnu for saying this. And he said to Brahma, you needn't be scared. Touch your head with the hand. Brahma did it and he became the shape of the air bull, which was Shiva's Vahanam. In this form of a bull on which I sit, you will do tapas, it tells Brahma. So through this, you will be called the head of Rudra. Seminal discharge, semen, is a quality of human beings. You will roam on the earth as a man, and whenever people ask what is on Brahma's head, you will reply Shiva. Hearing this, any person who has disturbed another man's wife, he will have forgiveness. And whenever people repeat your sinful action, your sins will be decreased. So now we are talking about it. His sin will be decreased to that extent. You will become purified. And the 4 drops of semen that you dropped on the ground, they will become the 4 clouds that emerge at the Pralaya Kala. That is Samvartaka, Avartaka, Pushkara and Drona. Those are 4 clouds that come when Pralaya is coming. They cover the sky roaring, and then Brahma comfortably finished the marriage ceremony. Shiva asks him, what dakshina do you want? Brahma says, for purification of all people, please stay in the same altar, in the same form. I will build an ashram and do tapasya for prayaschitta. So when anybody hears the story during a marriage or during an auspicious undertaking, sacrifice, it will be concluded without any obstacles. If the bride is there when it is discussed, if this discourse is given, she would have many sons. Then Sati, who was Daksha's daughter, wanted a permanent abode. Shiva showed her all the lokas, and she chose Kailasha beyond all Siddhas. And they lived for 10,000 years in Kailasha, paying attention to the whole universe. That is, they say it's his Leela. Then she was saturated, she wanted jnana, and she asked him, how can we remove suffering immediately for all living beings? So then he talks to her and gives her a number of details on how you practice meditation, what mantras you use, so that you can prevent the suffering of human beings. So that can come in the next. Did you like the story or was it too heavy? Hariom?
Swami, it was interesting, very interesting.
Interesting, but different, no?
Yeah, different.
Long also, because being Shiva Purana, it will always be little longer. It won't be, Krishna's thing, Vishnu's is sustenance. So you'll always have a lot of fun and games like that. Shiva also will give you that sort of thing, but Shiva is little more serious. He is completely with Shakti. So Shiva is one pointed. That is why Rama is being a devotee of Shiva. Rama is called the Taraka Mantra. That is the Omkar